Welcome students. So now in our journey towards understanding the anatomical structures of flowering plant, we have come towards our last module. Before that, we have discussed about the primary structures of plant, secondary structures and different anomalous structures which might be present in these plant. Okay, we have understood how cells could be organized or grouped together to form tissues, permanent tissues, and they could be then grouped together to perform a particular function and could be organized into tissue systems, and then different tissue system will give rise to different organs like stem, root, leaves, and these organs together will form a complete plant. So now in this module, we will also try to deal with some more aspects of those anatomical structures which could be observed in different plants. Now in this, the most important things that we will cover is about plant adaptation. Okay. Now plants actually grow in different environments. Okay. Their environmental condition is not similar as compared to other plant species. Now depending on the environment, their anatomical structures will also change to cope with that changing environment, and it won't be exactly same as all we have discussed about the normal structures. Okay, so there will be definitely some modification according to the environment. So that all we will try to cover in few lectures. We will try to understand the adaptations which are brought about in hydrophytes, that are those plants which are living in water, okay, or which are surrounded by water. Then we will talk about xerophytes, the plants which are growing in very low level of water condition, particularly like in deserts. Then we will talk about epiphytes which are growing on other plants, and then parasitic plants which are completely dependent on the host plant for their nourishment. Okay, so all these plants will definitely have some modification that will be slightly different from what we have learned about. Okay, some basic difference in their, suppose, vascular tissue, in their cortex, in their arrangement of different tissue layers. Okay, then we will also try to cover that what is the anatomical structures of reproductive organs. Okay, like we have till now talked about stem, roots and leaves, but flowers are also there. So flowers are the reproductive organs of a plant, and it's also important that we should analyze that what are the internal organization of a flower. So basically we will try to understand the androecium, that is the male reproductive part of the flower, and the gynoecium, that is the female reproductive part. And we will also try to analyze the anatomy of seeds. So let's start with hydrophytes. Okay, let's start with the plant adaptation, and first we will talk about hydrophytes. See, hydrophytes are basically the plants which grow in water condition, which are surrounded by water. Now they could be completely submerged. Suppose this is the water body, and you can find a plant which is completely submerged in water, or you can also find a plant which is floating, okay, which is floating on the water surface. That means it's some part is submerged in the plant and some part is on the surface of the water, and some plants also could be half in water and half in the atmosphere. So that type of all plants are actually considered to be hydrophytes, and they will have adaptations to live in water. Now in aquatic environment, see, there are a lot of challenges. These plants are not growing on land plants, so they have a different environmental condition. They have excess water surrounding them. Okay, so their diffusion and the arrangement of different tissues will definitely be different. Okay, they have limited oxygen availability. Because you know that oxygen is less dissolved in water, so they all require oxygen for respiration. As I have told you before also, that plants also respire. Okay, they not only prepare food, but they also take use of that food through the process of respiration. See, every organ of a plant is not synthesizing food. This is the leaf, but what about the others? How they will receive energy? Even the leaves also, they will synthesize, and for different organelles, for energy generation, they will break down those food particles, and then they will release energy, and for this process is known as respiration, and for that oxygen is required, that you all know. So because of limited oxygen availability, they have to develop a more elaborate system which could have a very free flow of those gaseous molecules. Then CO2 liberation should also be there. The temperatures could also be slightly cooler, means light availability will also be less as compared to the outer atmosphere. So all these conditions they have to deal with when they are growing in water. Now, hydrophytes can be categorized based on their position in water. Okay, so we can even classify those hydrophytes on the basis at what place they are found in water. Now, first is free floating hydrophytes. Okay, now free floating hydrophytes, you would have seen that on the water surface lot of plants are there. You would have seen, okay, some are coming out like this, some are freely floating. So free floating means they are not attached to the soil, okay, or the mud which is there in the water. See, inside the water also finally there will be a surface, okay, that surface will have a muddy layer. So these are not attached to the soil, not attached, okay. So definitely if they are free and they are freely floating, that means it is also some the upper surface is exposed to the air, whereas lower surface is in the water. So you can say that they are in direct contact with air as well as water. Now in this, the size of the leaves, as you can see, the size of the leaves can vary. They could be very small also, they could be very big, quite large. So size of the leaves can vary. Now the examples of free floating hydrophytes are like lemna, which is known as duckweed. Yeah, I will write it here. See, this is lemna, okay, species, this one. See, this is a very small angiospermic plant. See, although it doesn't look like angiosperm, but yeah, leaves you can find out, but it is one of the smallest angiosperm that is present. You would have heard of Wolffia, which also come under category of free living hydrophytes. So this Wolffia is actually the smallest angiosperm. So this also comes under the category. It's also look like lamina but much smaller. Basically lamina you will have just 2 leaves, okay, and one root is there. Basically you will not find stem also. So but this is all angiospermic plant. You would have observed a very large population of lamina growing on water bodies like on ponds and lake. If you will go closely and observe it, you can find out this lamina may be nearby in your pond. It's not necessary, but might be the lamina species or related species might be there, covering the entire pond. Similarly, azolla is there, which is also a hydrophyte. Now, in this case, many of the examples which I might be giving may not be higher plants. Okay, they may not be flowering plant. See, lemna and Wolffia, they are angiosperm. But when we talk about azolla, it's not angiosperm, it is pteridophyte. Okay, but I am giving this example because they are very useful examples when we talk about hydrophytes, and I think so you should all know about them when we are dealing about hydrophytes. So it is pteridophyte, but lemna also you will, azolla also you will find it is floating, and it will also contain a stem-like structure. Okay, a stem it will contain, and leaves will be densely packed on the stem, and you will see that the stem, okay, small roots can also come out from there. So it is completely floating on the water bodies. The stem is on the surface, and this will give them to expand. This will give with that type of organization, the leaves will expand, and in this way it can increase the surface area for photosynthesis. Now you will find eichhornias, okay, eichhornia, This is water hyacinth. Okay, you all would have seen this. You all would have seen this water hyacinth. Okay, it is also, you can say it's a weed also. It is growing, occupying pond and lakes, and wherever it is growing, it is abundantly growing and occupying all the areas. And maybe eutrophication process you would have heard of. This is all brought about by many algae and many this water hyacinth which is growing on the surface of the pond. I am not going in detail about all those things, but this is water hyacinth which is also free floating. Okay, you will see this is coming out from the surface and roots are coming out from downward side. Pistia is also there. So many species are there. This is all growing. You can see broad leaves are coming out from the top, and root will come out from the bottom. So, but it is not attached to any substratum. Now then, coming to rooted hydrophytes with floating leaves. In this, see, if this is the surface of water, okay, and there is the this is the surface where air is and water is coming in contact, and there in the bottom side you will have the soil of that water body. So they will be rooted, okay, with floating leaves. That means the roots will be attached to the substratum, to the soil, and then the leaves will come out and they will completely float on the water body. So floating leaves are there, and as well as, but they are rooted. They are anchored to the mud of the water body, and their leaves are generally connected with the help of petiole, which is floating, and these leaves are floating. See, you can see here the leaves are floating, but they are attached from the soil with the help of long petiole. See, Nilambu, that is lotus, you all would have seen, which is a very important example that you can all remember the structure. Nilambu is there, then Nymphia is there, which is also known as water lily. Okay, then Marsilia is there, but Marsilia is not a angiosperm, it's a pteridophyte. Okay, many other examples could also be there. Now coming to submerged floating hydrophytes. Now submerged floating means they are completely inside water. Okay, neither of their part is exposed to the atmosphere. They are completely inside water body, as you can see here, Ceratophyllum. Phylum is an example, but they are submerged and floating. That means their root is not attached with the mud of the soil, with the mud which is present in the water bodies. They are full, you can say that, not attached with the soil. Okay, so they are completely submerged, but still they are not attached with the soil, and they are floating inside the water body. So example is, now they will definitely have very small leaves, because you can easily understand that if something is inside water body, they cannot have very big leaf, because that will not help them in moving with the water currents, because they have to face the force of the water current. And if the leaf is very big, then it will not be able to provide them that flexibility that they can handle the water current. Okay, so generally you will find the leaves are very fine and thin, and they are highly divided leaves. So Ceratophyllum is there, then Utricularia, some examples. Okay, so this is there. Then rooted submerged. Okay, so definitely they are submerged in the water body, but they are rooted. Okay, so they are attached with the substratum. So very common example is Hydrilla. So this you can see, Hydrilla plant. So this will be attached. Many a times you will see it is also just beneath that water body, because they are elongated. They have a very long stem also, but thin and delicate stem. They will just lie just submerged inside the water body, but their stem will be attached to the soil of the water with the help of root. So hydrilla is one very common example. Then this is there, Etamogeton. Okay, then you have Vallisneria, then Isoete is there, pteridophyte. Then coming to rooted emergent hydrophyte, they are also known as amphibious plants. See, they are rooted emergent, means they are rooted in the soil of the water body, but some part is also coming completely, it is exposed to the atmosphere. As you can see in this case, Typha plant, you can see that it is also coming out from the water body and many of its part is completely out in the atmosphere. Okay, it is appearing that it is completely giving a picture of a land plant, that it is growing in the atmosphere. But yes, definitely many of its part and particularly the stem, it will always be there that some portion of the stem and the root will be submerged in the water body. It's not that all the stem or some part of the root is out of it, but yes, root will definitely be there in the water body. So they are generally found in shallow water bodies, or you can see that some pond is there on the sides of that pond where the water is shallow. You can see that some plants are coming out of the water body, but their roots are definitely attached to the mud of the which is present in the water body. Okay, so example is Typha. Okay, other example is Ranunculus. Okay, then you have Sagittaria. Okay, Cypress is also there, very common example. So all these plants, you can see that will definitely have some characteristic feature of a land plant also, modification and some adaptations they will also acquire for water plant. Typha, commonly it is also known as cattail. You can also call Cypress as sedge. Okay, so these names are also important that you should remember. Maybe sometimes the questions could be asked in any of your exams with different names. Sometimes it happens. Now coming to adaptation. So before actually we go with anatomical adaptation, see, it is also important to understand the morphological adaptation, because anatomy is actually a reflection of morphology. Okay, so unless and until you actually know how morphologically those adaptations will look like, you cannot understand the internal structure. So we will talk about morphological adaptation. So first is root. Okay, so definitely, what do you think? In hydrophytes, do they actually require root? So the role of root is to transport water, okay, from the soil surface. Many times when water is at a very low level, they develop a very elaborate root system so that they can go up to that water level and water could be absorbed. But is there any problem of water in hydrophytes? So the answer is definitely not. They don't require much developed root system because water is everywhere. They can reach to water at every point. Okay, the submerged one means there is no place which is left where water is now not surrounding them. So the root system is definitely poorly developed. Okay, poorly developed, or it is reduced. It's not that they will not have roots. Many times they have roots, but they will be actually poorly developed, or it will be reduced, and many times their function is not actually to transport water, but if they are attached to the mud, their function is mostly anchorage. Okay, and they can also transport minerals, okay, which is there in the water. Otherwise, the transport of water doesn't actually takes place through root. It takes place by the process of diffusion. So diffusion, you all know that it's a simple movement of any particle from its higher concentration to lower concentration. So water could also easily move through diffusion in the plant body from every side. Okay, every portion of the plant can perform that diffusion activity. So root system is poorly developed. Then even like in some plants like this ceratophyllum, which is a submerged hydrophyte, root is completely absent, means lack roots. Although you will see that it's not a very small plant, it's a comparatively bigger than at least Lemna azola, means not a very big tree or shrub like thing, but still you will find leaves and stems, but it completely lack roots. Okay. In Hydrilla also, like it is also submerged hydrophyte, roots are also poorly developed and they only anchor the plant and absorb nutrients. Now this is important, that presence of root pockets instead of root cap. We all have learned about presence of root cap in the root. Okay, root cap was there, that was protecting the root tip, that is the growing apex of the root. So in this case, root cap is absent, root pockets are there. Okay, a very elaborate, you can see an elaborate structure. You can say it's almost similar to that of root cap, but it is more elaborate and it is more developed, so it completely surrounds the root tip, and the purpose is definitely in protection, and it also helps in floating the roots in addition to the normal adventitious roots. See, it's also important that mostly the roots which are found in hydrophytes are adventitious. Okay, they are fibrous roots. They are fibrous roots. Okay, so root pockets are there. Okay, these root pockets are there in this. In Eichhornia, you will find root pockets. Then in Pistia also you will find them. Then in Lemna also you will find root pockets. Okay. So Eichhornia, water hyacinth. Then Lemna, duckweed. Lemna is known as duckweed. Pistia is also there. See, Pistia is commonly known as water lettuce because it look like a cabbage plant. Okay, when you will look like leafy structures will be completely folded, or it will be modified in that way that it will look like cabbage. So it is also known as water lettuce. Then some plants will have floating roots. Okay. So the stems of this particular species, Jussia repens, it develops from the stems, two types of roots will come out. Okay, one will be growing downwards and which will help in absorption. Okay, and the other will be spongy and it will be growing on the upper side. You can see here spongy roots are growing on the upward direction. Okay, their direction is on the upward side. So these roots will be spongy and they will help in floating the plant. Okay, and they will help in stabilizing the plant in the water, and they will also assist in nutrient absorption from the water column. Now coming to modification in stem. Okay, so stem of hydrophytes. See, in stem when we are talking about floating hydrophytes, they will generally have the one which is floating, they will have a very thin and delicate stem. Okay, they could be long, slender, spongy and flexible. See, stem has to be flexible because it has to cope up with the water current. Okay, then sometimes it is a very long stem is also there, which will increase the surface area from where leaves can come out. Okay, and if it is growing out of the plant and it is attaching the leaves, it has to be long. Okay, it is spongy. See, every time you will see that the tissues are spongy, they are filled with air, which will help them in floating in the water body. Okay, many a times they will be definitely delicate because they cannot be very hard and they cannot be very rigid, because then they will break with the moving water current. They will be generally green in color, okay, because they are thin. They will also perform photosynthesis. Then you will see in Azolla, like you will see the stems are horizontally on the surface, that I have told you that in Azolla the stems will be horizontal on which leaves will be attached. So these stems will help in increasing the surface area where leaves can attach, and this way they can perform more better. They can absorb light and they can perform photosynthesis. The Azolla, I think so, you all would have learned in some ways. It is used in it is used as biofertilizer. You might have heard of it, that it is used in nitrogen fixation. Why it is used in nitrogen fixation? Because it contains a symbiotic association with cyanobacteria. Okay, that all I think so you would have learned somewhere. But here we are learning about the adaptation. So in Azolla, the stem will be oriented in this particular way. In Eichhornia, the stem is thick, short and stoloniferous. See, we have learned about runner and suckers. Okay. So in this runners and suckers, you have seen that this is a means of vegetative propagation. The stem is horizontal and roots are coming out from the downward side and leaf is coming out on the outer side. So in this case, in water bodies also you will see that Eichhornia root is the stem is stolen, okay, and it is horizontal from where root will come out and the leaf will come out. So this will be modified in that way. In Nymphea, the stem will be attached to the pond and this will form a rhizome. Rhizome is actually a horizontal modification of stem from which leaves will come out and the other upper branches will come out. Rhizomes will help in anchoring the plant to the soil, and it will also help in storage purpose and supporting the plant during unfavorable condition. Then coming out to leaves, the petioles. See, petioles, first of all we talk about petioles. They are very long in case of Nilambo and Nymphea. We can see that they are attached with a very long petiole which will help them to float on water. Okay, and this petiole is very long, slender, and it will also be spongy. Then Eichhornia, it is very important, petiole is swollen. See, when you will see petiole, it will be swollen. Okay, it will be attached to the stem. You can see here, this is the swollen petiole of Eichhornia. This is a very important adaptation. So it has swollen petiole because it traps air and helps in buoyancy and helps the plant to float. Generally, the plants which are floating will have very large, entire and flat leaves, which will provide a very broad surface for sunlight absorption. Okay, as you can see, Nilambo. Even in Nymphea also they are having broader leaves so that more sunlight could be absorbed. Their upper surface is exposed to water but lower surface is not actually, so their modification is in that way. Now these leaves will have waxy coating, okay, because they want their upper surface to be dry. The stomata will be present on the upper surface of the leaf, whereas it won't be definitely in lower surface. They don't require any gas exchange because it is completely submerged in water. So waxy coating will be there that will repel water and help in preventing water logging and clogging of the stomata. Now submerged, some species like Salvinia, see actually it's a pteridophyte, will develop lot of hairs on its surface. You can see lot of hairs are there on its surface which trap air and help in buoyancy, and they also help in repelling water. See that hairs will be actually hydrophobic in nature, will be hydrophobic in nature, and they will also repel water. Now coming to submerged hydrophytes, we generally see that leaves are finely dissected and they are very thin, okay, long and ribbon shape. It is just to resist water current. Now emergent hydrophytes or amphibians, in which some part is completely submerged in water, some is out. You can see that heterophily is observed, means two types of leaves are observed. One which is submerged in water will be dissected, okay, and one which is coming out will be slightly broader leaf. So they will show both type of adaptation. Now coming to anatomical adaptation. See, anatomical adaptation, we will start with submerged hydrophytes. Now those plants which are completely submerged in plants, when you will cut the section of their root, what you will see? See, definitely if roots are there, means some may not have roots also. If roots are there, they will be highly reduced, okay. Now in the roots, you will not see any root hairs because they don't require to increase the surface area of root for better absorption. Root pockets are there. Cuticle, which is also found in the outer layer, will be completely absent because they don't want to prevent any water loss because they are living in water, so no desiccation problem is there, and it will be poorly developed. See, whenever cuticle, if it is present, then its function is not preventing water loss, but it is preventing some microbial infection. Many a times their purpose is that. The cortex will be well developed, okay. You can see a bigger layer of cortex which will possess lot of air spaces, okay. You can see cortex will be made up of parenchyma, and this parenchyma will be actually developed into erenchyma, okay. So it will encircle lot of air spaces, which is always required. Presence of erenchyma is the most important characteristic of hydrophytes. So that will, see, two purposes there. They will help in buoyancy and they will also help in air circulation for respiration. They are thin and parenchymatous. See, vascular tissue is very feebly developed. You don't require a vascular tissue. You don't require xylem. See, particularly xylem is completely or poorly developed. Sometimes the xylem is just represented in the form of a small cavity. You will find some phloem tissues definitely because that will be there for conduction of food materials, okay. In the center, sometimes complete an air cavity is there. Not talking about stem, that will also be weak and flexible, okay. It will not be very hard. Cuticle will also be almost absent or poorly developed. Now in this case also, if epidermis is there, epidermis will be single layered, okay, and thin wall. Then cortex will be broad, okay. Some few layers of the cortex on the top might be having lesser intercellular space, but after that they will develop erenchyma, okay. So lot of erenchyma will be there. Actually no endodermis and pericycle will be not there, but maybe some lower layers of this cortex could be considered as endodermis. You will have a cavity. Vascular system will also be poorly developed. You will have xylem in the center, which may be marked as a single strand also. Mechanical tissues will be completely absent. That is more lignified or sclerenchyma, collenchyma, that all will be absent. See, just we will try to understand with the help of hydrilla. See, this section was prepared. You can see this outer boundary of hydrilla. It is having just epidermis, one or two layers of cortex is just having not no intercellular spaces. Otherwise, you will see lot of erenchyma. These parenchymatous tissues are aligned in such a way that they are encircling a cavity which is known as erenchyma. Xylem is reduced to an air cavity and phloem is present. Now leaf also, you will see that it is thin and dissected or ribbon like when it is completely submerged. You have seen leaves, okay. Cuticle is almost absent. Stomata is also not present because there is problem of gases exchange. In hydrilla, you have seen that leaves are very small and reduced. Potamogeton and Vallisneria, you will see that leaves are ribbon shape, and in Ceratophyllum also leaves are segmented. Now, exchange of gases takes place through diffusion, okay, but diffusion is a process in which if the layers are very large, okay, multiple layers of cells are there, then this diffusion problem will have it will not be able to perform properly. So, for diffusion, very few cell layers are generally there in the leaves for better diffusion. So, you can see that Potamogeton is only 3 cell thick, okay. The middle one could be considered as mesophyll, where the outer one you can think of as outer epidermis or lower epidermis. In another plant, Elode, leaves are only 2 cell thick, okay. So both you can say that either they are upper epidermis or lower epidermis, and they all will perform photosynthesis. They will have chloroplast. The fibrovascular bundle will also be highly reduced, means the proper vascular bundle containing fibers, lignified tissue will be completely reduced, okay. So this is about submerged hydrophytes. We have discussed about the anatomical structure of the submerged hydrophyte. In the next lecture, we will study about other hydrophytes, how their anatomical structures are modified. So, thank you for today.